Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. It's wonderful to see all of you here. Today I'm going to share some really effective makeup usage tips with you all. Getting the most out of makeup products. We sometimes buy cosmetics, but aren't quite sure how to use them, are we? I'm going to show you how to really get the most out of your cosmetics. You'll be thinking, wow, I never knew I could use it like that. I've gathered all the little tips I've shown in past videos and put them all together for you. So, let's get started. Go! Ta-da! First up is makeup setting spray. Normally you just spray and you're done, right? But try this, on a makeup puff. You spray a generous amount, then pat it specifically onto areas that tend to get oily, applying the setting spray. If you spray a good amount onto the puff and apply it this way, you can really get a more focused and generous application. Applying it all over can be drying, so just focus on the areas that get oily. And you know how this aerosol spray type comes out really cold? So if you spray it on the puff first, it cools the puff down, which also helps to lower your skin's temperature. After patting it on with the puff, I can feel that the oiliness is well controlled. So if you have very oily skin, try applying it like I did before starting your makeup. And after applying foundation, give it a good spray with setting spray. Next up is liquid concealer. Liquid concealers usually have a thin product texture like this. That makes them great for applying over relatively large areas like dark circles, reddish areas, areas with large pores, and places with a lot of blemishes. But with a thin texture like this, the moisture evaporates over time, right? It dries out and the texture becomes parched. As moisture leaves, coverage increases. It's great for covering dark blemishes, skin troubles, or melasma or freckles. So when it's still nice and moist like this, you can apply it more broadly. Just apply it generally to those areas that have a lot of blemishes. Even after applying it like this, there are still dark blemishes that remain uncovered and visible. I'm going to use the dried liquid concealer to cover them. Since we need to cover them precisely, you'll need a fine tip brush like this. It's the same concealer, but this part is moist because I just applied it, and this part over here has dried out. So you just dip your brush into it like this. If it's too dry, mix it a bit with some concealer that hasn't dried yet. The product texture here is really firm right now. There's no moisture at all. So now, with this dried concealer, you're going to gently dot it onto the blemish areas. For stubborn dark blemishes, don't spread it, just gently dab it on. You need to place it on top of the skin, but if it has moisture, it will just slide around. It will just slide off, so you need to use a concealer with no moisture and gently dot it on like this. So you take out some liquid concealer, let it dry for a little while, and then apply it in this manner. Even with the same product, the coverage power changes depending on how much moisture it has. I did all of this with just one concealer. See how well it's covered? Next up is a darker concealer. A shade that's a bit darker than your usual one can be applied before you start contouring. Sometimes when you're contouring, the concealer underneath can get wiped off, right? If you try to cover that with a concealer that matches your skin tone, the contoured area is dark, but the concealer is light, so the tones won't match. So you can just cover it with a darker color like this. Using a big brush can make it look patchy, so use that fine tip brush from before. Just use a darker concealer to lightly spot cover only the areas that got rubbed off. So it's a good idea to have at least one darker shade. A darker concealer is also great for lip line correction. You know how some people have a dull, dark lip line that they want to cover up, right? If you try to cover your lip line with a concealer that matches your skin tone or a lighter one, it won't actually cover the dullness. It just ends up looking really ashy. So for your lip line, you can take a darker shade like this, dab a little on your finger, and then gently apply it. It gives really good coverage. Next is a peach-toned concealer. A peach-toned or reddish concealer. Peach-toned concealers are well known for covering dark circles, right? It does a great job of covering grayish areas and bluish areas. Beyond that, where else can you apply it? You can also use it for blush correction. It's the same principle as the contouring I mentioned earlier. For areas where you've applied blush, you use a concealer with a reddish tint like this. Just dip a fine tip brush into the reddish concealer and lightly apply it only to the parts that has faded. Using a big brush will remove the blush, so use a fine tip brush instead. And if you happen to not possess a reddish concealer, you can simply mix your usual concealer with either a cream blush or a lip tint. Just blend them together to create it yourself. So the concealer has turned reddish, hasn't it? You can use it in exactly the same way. Next up is face powder. This is one of the great tips I've been emphasizing lately. For those with large nose pores who meticulously conceal them, only to find them emphasized after applying powder, this might sound familiar. Let's say you finished your base makeup, and after a little while, the sebum from underneath has started to come through. Now, if you apply powder on top of that, if there's already sebum on your nose, pressing down will spread it even more. This is precisely why your coverage is removed, even if you've meticulously applied concealer. If you touch your face when natural oils have surfaced, that oil will simply spread and lift the coverage, causing your pores to become noticeable once more. Therefore, when you apply face powder or contour on your nose, or really any time you touch that area, it absolutely must not be oily at all. It has to be smooth, so how do you do that? After you've applied foundation or concealer to cover your nose, you have to apply powder immediately, before any sebum has a chance to appear. Don't hesitate at all. The moment you feel the coverage is perfect, apply the powder right away. So, you must get rid of all the sebum. But if your pores still pop up after all that, it means your initial coverage wasn't good enough. The moisture and oil in the foundation or concealer itself might have temporarily hidden them, but once the powder lifts that away, the pores become visible. So, to begin with, make sure you cover everything well with concealer. Once your coverage is absolutely perfect, then you can immediately apply your powder. But if you've missed that timing and your nose is already oily, what should you do? First, you need to blot away that oil with a tissue. I don't really recommend using blotting papers. That's because they tend to lift off a lot of your coverage. A tissue is perfect for absorbing just the right amount of sebum, so blot the oil away. Then, some coverage might be gone. If you powder now, that missing coverage will become more evident, so you need to cover your pores once more. Can you see this right here? The pores have kind of reappeared again. So you cover those imperfections again, then right after that you apply the face powder. You need to apply a good, generous amount onto your brush. Don't try to save product by using too little. Instead, really get it deep into the brush's bristles generously. And because there's so much on it, you can just gently tap to get it applied properly. You tap it on gently. If you press too hard, the coverage will be removed, so do it gently. If you do this, you'll get great coverage without any pore emphasis. See how soft and matte it is? Okay, and I have one more tip for you about face powder. Face powders generally come in two main types, you know. There's loose powder, which is just the powder itself, a fine loose powder, and then there's pressed powder, where the powder is compressed and solidified. Those who do their makeup might actually have both of these types, you know. Loose powder has finer powder particles, since it's just loose powder. Pressed powder is compressed, so the powder particles can be a little coarser. So if you have oily skin, or combination skin where your nose gets really oily, the best way to control that sebum is to use both of these products. First, you'll want to apply the really fine powder, making sure to meticulously fill in each and every pore. Then you layer the slightly coarser pressed powder on top, essentially creating a protective coating over it all. If you do that, it really locks in the sebum. Finer powder particles have better adherence. After applying a thin layer on the skin, you can add the coarser powder on top, and it will adhere really well. So first, gently apply this loose powder to your T-zone where oil tends to accumulate, such as your nose and forehead. Then take a pressed powder and lightly layer it on top for an enhanced, long-lasting finish. Doing this will significantly improve the lasting power of your powder compared to a single application. But don't use too much, or it can look too matte and cause flakiness, so just apply a little bit. Next up is lip products. I'm going to show you two types, a matte type and a glossy type. Lip products like these are also great to use as blush. For blush, a blur or matte type works best. Because its texture covers the skin rather than soaking in, it's less prone to lifting your makeup when applied to the cheeks. And it's not too oily, so it won't remove your base makeup. However, many dewy and glossy types tend to have a texture that penetrates the skin. And because they contain so much moisture and oil, they easily lift your base makeup. If you're using it as blush, this blurring type is much better. Dab some on a puff. When you use a lip product as a blush, the color spectrum is really wide. Lip products do tend to offer a broader range of shades, allowing for more varied blush applications. And when using a blur type, it helps avoid wiping away your base coverage, which is a great benefit. Now, how do you use a dewy lip product like this as a blush? First, after applying your blush, dab a tiny bit on a makeup puff and apply it only to the areas where you want a glow. Applying it all over makes it too shiny, emphasizing skin texture. Only apply it where you want that glow on your cheekbones. How can you tell? Connect your eyebrow's end to your chin's tip. That's your face's V-zone. Along this border, you'll apply the glossy lip product mainly along this boundary line. This is a great application method for those of you who don't have a wide variety of blushes. This is also great if you want to match your lip color and overall shades today, especially for those who always find color coordination in makeup challenging. This method prevents texture emphasis while creating a blush with a subtle, luminous glow. So go ahead and try using your lip products as blush. Alright, next up we have a powder blush. Based on your skin tone, you'll need to select a blush that is deeper than your natural shade and another one that is distinctly brighter. You'll just feel it yourself. "Oh, this looks too stark," or "This is too dark, making me look dull." You should pick blushes like these. I personally picked this product. It's the Fig Amber color. It's a muted tone with a slight grayish tint, so it's a bit duller than my skin tone. And this particular one, in the Mauve Haze shade, has a whitish tint, making it appear considerably brighter and paler on my skin. First, a dark, deep color like this should be applied to the outer parts of your face. To give you a reference point on your face, just use your eyes as a guide. Let's call the area from the outer corner of the eye the outer part. Because if blush is applied too far outwards, the face can look overly wide. That's why we define the area from the outer corner of the eye as the proper outer boundary. So you take a dark color like this and focus on applying it to the outer areas. Don't bring it inwards. That's because the inner area is the center of your face. It's the part that should pop to give your face dimension. Because your face will look more three-dimensional when the center appears to come forward and the outer parts recede into the background. But if you apply a dark shade to this inner region, which is meant to appear prominent and dimensional, it will instead create an illusion of recession, making it seem sunken. That's why you only apply it to the outer part. But if you just apply it right there, it'll look patchy and create a harsh line, so tap it on the outer part first and blend it out just a little. Just blend it out slightly around the edges. See how applying it here makes this area look a bit sunken? It gives a shading effect. Now, a lighter color than my skin tone, like this bright one, should be applied to the inner face. You bring it slightly more inward than where you just applied the color. If applied separately, blush will look odd. They need to overlap. If you applied it there, then you connect the blush by overlapping it here. When you use a blush that's whiter and brighter than your own skin tone and apply it to the inner part, it creates a naturally flushed effect as if it's stained, even if you don't do anything else. Because it's dark here and bright here, you get a nice gradient effect. This technique really enhances the quality of your blush application. It's truly a fantastic method. The more colors you use like this, the more dimensional the effect will be. Now I'll show you another way to use blush. Instead of just on your cheeks, you apply it to your contouring areas too. You've likely seen this quite a bit, as this method is incredibly popular and quite trendy these days. Taking a small brush, pick up some blush and apply it to the bridge of your nose, and then your cheeks. Under the nose, then the tip of the chin and the forehead hairline. Using only contour can sometimes make your face look dull, but adding this reddish tone means you need less contour, so your face won't look dull. The color is pretty, and it's just a great method. You can also put some on a large brush and lightly apply it to the outer edges. If you apply too much, it can actually look really weird. Just a little. If you apply just a little to the outer edges like this, it creates a subtle shading and gives you a natural flush. Blush is incredibly versatile. If you desire more dimension, you can simply add a touch of contouring. But if extensive shading isn't necessary, just using blush like this works perfectly fine. I applied it lightly so it's not super obvious on camera, but can you see how it created a subtle shadow? Subtle shading. And an important point, you shouldn't use a whitish color that's much lighter than your skin tone. If you do, it won't create a shadow and will just make your face look puffy. You should use a blush that's similar to or slightly darker than your skin tone. And then with an even smaller brush, you're going to create the lip line. These blush colors are really natural, aren't they? And they work perfectly for overlined lips. Easy to fix too. Why? Sheer color payoff, plus colors combine perfectly. It creates a really natural lip line. The color is so natural, isn't it? It connects really well with the blush, and it's also a great product to use as eyeshadow. Adding a bit of natural flush to your eye area with blush looks so pretty. You apply it all the way up to your eyelid area, basically using the blush all over your entire face. Applying blush on your aegyo looks so pretty too. I'm not going to make my aegyo overly bright. To align with current trends, instead of a very bright aegyo, I'll aim for a natural, subtle under-eye effect. For those seeking this, you can utilize the slightly darker, muted blush that you previously applied to your contouring area. Just apply it under your eyes like this. See how it creates a soft, subtle shadow on the aegyo area? This makes your under-eye area look much more expanded. Blush is seriously great for applying under the eyes. The color isn't too strong and it's subtle, so it's especially great for beginners. Conversely, if you prefer a voluminous aegyo and wish to make this area appear plump, you can utilize a blush with a white tint that is slightly brighter than your natural skin tone. You just apply a bright blush like this to your aegyo. See? It's brighter than this side. It's such a natural, healthy-looking color, so it creates a very natural aegyo without looking overdone. And here's one more tip. If you're someone who loves an even more voluminous aegyo, you know those highlighters? You're going to mix the highlighter you use on the bridge of your nose with the blush. And then, you apply it to your aegyosal area. When you do this, it creates a subtle sense of volume, making it look incredibly natural. It creates a very natural-looking aegyosal. It's not overwhelmingly bright, right? If you solely use highlighter, it can appear overly shimmery, like makeup from a decade ago, which might feel a bit overwhelming. That's precisely why you should blend it with blush. When you mix them like this, you achieve this particular effect, resulting in a very natural-looking aegyosal shadow. The color is so gorgeous, so definitely try it on your aegyosal like this. Next up is eyeliner. A lot of people use pencil gel liners for a softer look, right? But while these gel liners glide on super smoothly, they're not very resistant to sebum. Due to oily eyelids, liner will smudge if applied to the outer corner. And if you apply it inside your lashes close to the waterline, it can mix with your tears when you blink and smudge underneath. So, if your liner smudges easily, it's best to avoid using a gel liner on the outer corner and waterline. For those specific areas, it's better to use a liquid liner. Each product has its own unique features. Some are more waterproof, while others are more resistant to oil. However, strictly considering the texture, gel liners tend to smudge. They have a tendency to smudge when they come into contact with things like oil and moisture. However, even if a liquid eyeliner smudges, it typically does so in a cleaner, more defined way. So if you use liquid liner on the areas that smudge easily and gel liner for the rest, it really won't smudge. So, along the lash line, I'll use the gel liner. So, after drawing with the gel liner like this, I'll then use the liquid eyeliner only for the outer corner. Using similar colors won't make a big difference, and if it still smudges, your mascara is the problem, or you didn't properly remove the oil around your eyes before doing your eye makeup. If you do it this way, your eyeliner truly won't smudge, and for the waterline, I apply a deeper shade to achieve a more distinct and defined appearance. The outer corner was this color, but for the waterline, I'll use an even darker, more pigmented color, drawing it closer to the waterline to achieve a more defined look. When you draw your eyeliner this way, the innermost part is dark, right? Using a dark liquid eyeliner, the color softens to a lighter shade as it extends outward with the gel liner for a softer look. This gives you an eyeliner look that's defined on the inside and soft on the outside. Of course, it's easier to just use liquid eyeliner for the whole thing. That will give you a sharper, more defined look. Drawing the outer part with a gel liner and the inner part with a liquid liner creates a look that's both defined and soft. This approach ensures it's not overly stark, making it less intimidating and much more natural looking. And since you're using liquid eyeliner for the outer corner, it smudges less. Alright everyone, that's it for today's video. Did you enjoy it? I really hope you all get the most out of your makeup products and don't let anything go to waste. I'll keep helping you out in the future. If there's a video you want to see, please leave a comment. I always make sure to read every single one of your comments. Please stay healthy and I'll catch you again in the next video. Haeni love and dead is forever. Thank you all so much.